Hello, and welcome to the first turn of City of Cards. This has been a long time coming, so let us get stuck in. You've all done a fabulous job at getting your actions into me, despite me bringing forward the deadline time, because I ran into a few snags making it possible to stream these turns today, and I did not want to delay this any longer, so I've decided, as you can see, that I am doing a premiere as opposed to a live stream. But that will not be the case going forward, as every last Sunday of every month at 7 p.m. GMT, I will be streaming these turns so we can all interact together. This is just a one-off occurrence, though if it turns out I can't stream for whatever reason, be it IRL gets in the way, I think this is a good alternative for me to keep it consistent as to what day these streams go on. Though obviously I've instantly broken that by doing a Tuesday instead of a Sunday, but oh well. Let us start with our initiative and discover which of you factions are going first. So Redcoats at 6, the Patriots crashing in with a 10, the group not so crashing it in with a 1, the Custodians at an 8, going above the Redcoats. That means the Knights are at a number 2 down here. The Gemini League is at 4, that is above a 2 but below a 6. So the Patriots, Custodians, then the Gemini League, then the Knights, then the group. And with the NPC factions, the Boston Camarilla, 8. First Light, 9. Society of St. Leopold at 4. So, for those of you who want to understand what's going on here, player factions go before NPC factions. Player factions get 2 actions. NPC factions only get the 1. So we do the player factions first, then the NPC factions. Now, let us start with the Patriots. And let's see what they have gotten set up for me today. So, unfortunately, we do not have any narrative, but I can kind of tell what they're going on, perhaps narratively, through the actions. We can make some inference. The Patriots being, of course, the Anarchs from Worcester, who have been brought into the Boston Camarilla of a join us or discover why you should have joined us. They chose to join the Camarilla, quotation marks. We'll see how long it takes for them to try and destroy things from the inside. So first things first, we're going to calculate resources. There is no resources for them to calculate. If we go down to their territory, the only domain they have is the Code Enforcement Police, the Boston Police HQ, which helps them get rid of the claims of other factions, but no resources. So no resources needed to be calculated. Then we are talking about their action. So action 1, they are going to resolve the event at the American Respiratory Theatre. Let us have a nosy. It is a masquerade event, which is occurring here at the Respiratory Theatre, requiring a mental roll to resolve, where the Society of St. Leopold is present, and will gain them 2 coin and 3 rep. But, as they have so kindly pointed out to me, to remind me, one of the faction abilities that the Patriots have is on-hand fixers, which means when you perform the resolve event, targeting masquerade breach events, they always roll physical, and they gain +1 rep on top of the regular rewards. And because we haven't got a narrative, I think I can take the opportunity to perhaps read the faction ability narrative that they have. So the negligence and the recklessness of one will affect all if not dealt with swiftly, and the Patriots have become excellently proficient at cleaning up the messes of others. The Patriots have a very strict view on the masquerade. It must be upheld, it must be maintained if the Kindred Society as a whole is to survive. They are incredibly prudent. So they're getting stuck in and cleaning up this masquerade breach that has occurred in this lovely little theater. So they will roll physical. Let me get that right. And that means I go to the faction sheet and click the physical to roll. No bonus dice. That is a lot of dice. That is too many dice. So I am going to instead not try and work out why that was the case. And instead simply roll 2d6s. We will fix that later. They rolled a 4, which is, if I'm going to scroll up, I believe 1 contempt in response for resolving the event. Yes. So we'll go back to their page, give them 1 contempt. They gain 2 coin, 3 rep, and then an additional rep because of their faction ability, and because the prudent Masquerade Pro Patriots want to ensure that all Masquerade breaches are cleaned up and kept under control. They progress their objective. And their objective is to complete a total of 10 Masquerade breaches. So they're 1 step closer. Now, their second action. If they have 2 coin, they want to spend it for a +1 bonus. And it is to claim the Museum of Fine Arts. Well, they definitely do have the 2 coin, successfully set up by their previous event that they just resolved. So we can clear that. I'm going to set up a claim action. Claim domain for the Museum of Fine Arts. There we go, and that is a 4-tick clock. Let me confirm that. It is right here, yep, adjacent to their domain. They're expanding, looking like they want to perhaps gain a resource generation. That's a lot of rep that we're gunning for. Perhaps that might be something to do with their goals here, their motivations. And a claim action is a tier roll. So we'll click tier, no bonus dice. They rolled a 4, which is 2 ticks. I am going to check the rules as this is the first time. Yep, that is correct. A 4 is 2 ticks, and they are halfway to claiming the Museum of Fine Arts. Phenomenal. Now they only have 1 contempt. As we have completed their actions, we move on to entanglements. We'll see what consequences their actions have had. Only because they have 1 contempt means they only have to roll the first level, and it means they have rolled a 0 or a 2. They have rolled either a 1, 2, or 6, which means they gain another contempt. And that is the Patriots. Pretty successful. They got the event they were gunning for. They're halfway there to claiming another domain. Congratulations to the Patriots. Now we move on to the Custodians. And the Custodians have a little narrative for us, so we'll start there. The Custodians have decided to start expanding their territory. This time, they are gunning for their cunning arguments come in the form of a wrecking ball. Daisy wants a new training area for her derby team, and she will not hesitate to knock some heads around and knock some other sports out, particularly the sports that still won't allow women to participate in them. Better to stay out of her way, as Daisy is wrecking through. And they are performing for their first action a claim domain action for the War Memorial Recreation Center. Right here. Another resource generator. Definitely going for the resources early, which is honestly not a bad shout. And the Custodians have kindly reminded me about their ability, Deaf Arguments and Rightful Claims. When you perform the claim domain action, you may roll social instead of tier. Phenomenal. That means they're going to roll 2 dices because their social is 2. So, if we look at then why that is narratively, in our society, domain belongs to those who can defend it in court. We fought to free this city, and we have the right to what we're owed. The right words in the right ears, and anything in this city can belong to the custodians. So they use their social guile, their social ways and skills, their slick tongues to get what they want. And because I'm not quite sure if this is operating properly, I am just going to roll the 2 d6s needed here. And that is a 4. That is 2 ticks to getting their next domain. Claim domain at the War Memorial Recreation Center. Make sure I spell that right. And it's 4 ticks. They got a 4, which means 2 ticks. And can you guess what their second action is? It's the exact same one. So we're going to roll 2 dice again. And they got a 3, which only means 1 tick. So they are 1 tick away. So they'll have that pretty locked down next turn. But pretty successful. And if we're going to look for entanglements now, they have gained no contempt this turn. Oh, I completely failed to get them their coin from order of operations. Already making mistakes. And we're only into the second faction, so I will correct that error of mine. Give them their coin that they have from the SOA power station, or perhaps that is SOWA power station. But I would put money on it being SOA, and I'm a storyteller, so I'm gonna decree that. So that's their coin. They didn't want to spend coin. Just make sure there wasn't anything they wanted to spend that coin on. I don't think they could have. No. Okay. After making a mistake, I don't want to make any more. I want to keep this as smooth as possible. Entanglements. Gain 1 contempt. There we go. Pretty successful. So close. But next turn, I'm pretty sure the custodians will have that in the bag. Moving on to the redcoats. And they have a lovely little bit of narrative for us. Let's read that here. Always remember that the crowd that applauds you at your coronation is the same crowd that will applaud your beheading. People like a show. The Redcoats exist as the final remnant of an organization so powerful it competently fought a multi-front defensive war for over 200 years. It being reduced to a few remaining members, still enacting the orders and purpose they were given long ago, but doing so required change. There was no support, no weight to throw around. The process of survival is the process of change. They would change how they fight, operate from the shadows, and achieve victory through perseverance. A message would be delivered to all congressors, as well as the Ivory Tower. A message reading as follows. To all concerned parties, the Redcoats announced their intention to claim the stewardship of Omni Parker House in service to the Ivory Tower. We are aware of the political sensitivity required in operating such a domain and request our efforts be uninterrupted to ensure stability is maintained. Let this be the first of many acts that prove our continued commitment to Prince Iverson in this new era of progress. How lovely of them to let everyone know of their intentions. So their first action is to resolve the event at Trinity Church, yielding 3 coin and 2 XP. And that is over here. I'm going to quickly remove this event from event tag over here to remind me that this event has already been done, so we don't add scrutiny at the end of the turn. And go to Trinity Church, where there's an occult a curiosity happening at this long-standing church. It is occurring at this domain, requiring a physical roll to resolve. The Society of St. Leopold is also present there, and if resolved, it will yield 3 coin and 2 XP. Lovely. So, you will have to roll physical, which means rolling, I'm pretty sure, only 1 dice for the red cones. I'm going to try clicking on here and see if it works as intended. 0 dice. So that means they roll a 2. Unfortunate, seeing as they also rolled a 6, but it's 0 dice, so you take the lowest result. So that worked and that didn't. I'll have to figure that out later. So that means they gain 2 contempt in their efforts over here at Trinity Church, but in doing so they gain 3 coin and 2 XP. 3 coin, 2 XP. And their next event is, of course, to attempt to claim Omni Parker House. Now, Omni Parker House, as mentioned in their letter to all concerned parties, is a complicated domain to take over because the Boston Camarilla frequently arrange for powerful visitors to stay at this hotel. This has made it particularly difficult and costly for Kindred to sway Prince Iverson to grant them stewardship over such a valuable domain, despite her own reluctance to declare personal ownership over the hotel. This is an esteemed place, a very, very fancy apartments, legends and iconic figures of mortal society have stayed here. So, obviously a faction of such gentlemanly values are interested in this place. So, they have going to claim this domain, but doing so because of the negative associations, because of that little lore and narrative around this domain. It means that the minimum size of a clock to claim this domain is 6 ticks. And also, to perform a claim domain action on this domain, the performing faction must spend 1 coin, which answers to some of you why they may have performed to resolve that event. So they're going to spend that 1 coin, and then they're going to roll tier to get a result of 1, which only means 1 tick for their 6 tick clock, because even though it is right next to them, it would normally be a 4 tick clock, but because of this ability, the minimum size of that clock can only be 6. So if we quickly type in claim domain Omni Parker House, and they are a 1/6 of the way there. Taking such a valuable domain is going to be a tricky challenge, but they have jumped feet first in. So they have 2 contempt from their event. Let us see what it is that they have rolled entanglements wise, and another gain contempt. They are at 3 contempt now. Awesome. Congratulations to the Redcoats. We now move on to the Gemini League. Always curious, always hoarding, and hopeful to show their willingness to cooperate, the Gemini sort through their unending artifacts to find those that can help them and others. They would like to perform an anticipate needs action, which means they are looking to develop a boon which has the associated actions of reduced scrutiny and claim domain. Well, let us see how valuable those artifacts are in generating and dying. Impressive. So that means the Gemini League have created for themselves a major boon which can either perform the reduced scrutiny action or claim domain action. So if you guys are other factions out there would like to propose, let's say, to the Gemini League services you could provide for that major boon, it's definitely valuable. A major boon, for those who maybe not quite so clear on boon rules, basically a boon is a one-off action, one-off extra action on top of your regular 2 actions that you can perform. But you can only perform the 2 actions listed underneath that boon. So for this instance, it's reduced scrutiny and claim domain. The tier of the value of the boon, be it trivial, minor, or major, determines how many dice you roll if you were to roll dice. And a major boon, granted to them because of the 6th result, means that they would roll 3 dice with this action. So this is a very, very valuable boon. Congratulations. Now, their second action, I would like to reveal and let people know that they were gunning for a particular event over at Trinity Church, but because the Redcoats beat them to it, it is no longer there. But as prepared as always, the Gemini League have an alternative strategy. So instead of going for the occult curiosity at Trinity Church, they instead have laid their eyes upon the Trimogen Primigere. Trimogen Primigere? That was not correct pronunciation. The Primogen of the Tremere. Now, we're going to have a challenge of pronunciation of this name. I think it's Dejan Sikia? Sayaka? Dejan Sayaka. One of you may know, one of you may tell me. And they are going to attempt to sway this Primogen. So for them, that is a 7-tick clock determined by their similarity in ethos. Sway Primogen. Dejan Sayaka. So we're going, because this only gives us the options of even numbers, we are going to do 8, but tick one of those to represent 7 ticks. And a sway Primogen action is a social roll. Where are they at social? Only 0 dice, but you gotta start somewhere. So they roll 2 d6s. And we take the lower result, which is 1 tick. Only 1 tick. But we gotta start somewhere. That's the 7th of the way there. And now we look to entanglements. Now they have... Oh, and again, this is going to seem to be the one thing I'm not great at, is remembering to calculate your resources. The Gemini League get 1 XP per turn because of their domain up in Dean White Winthrop House. The library, owned by their whip, a very, very extensive library, which gives them 1 XP. So, they have no contempt, which means they roll the lowest, but they've still gained contempt from their entanglements. Now, we are now going to move on to the knights who... We're going to start off with calculating resources, which means they gain 1 XP from the Old North Church in North End, an interesting place that has recently discovered a tomb underneath, full of bodies of interesting historic value. So 1 XP, and also their ability, Jewel of Kings, the constant bickerment between king and queen of the knights, gains a tick. And we are going to their actions. Now they are also in the game of claiming domain, and they are going for Chelsea Clocks, just north of here. More resources being up for grabs. Very valuable clocks, very distinctive mech and craftsmanship They are a sign of privilege and power if you can gift them. But apparently, they are... Buying one seems like a desperate play. That's what the roses over the Toreadors have seemingly decided. Now, roll tier for claim domain action. That is 2 ticks. 2 ticks in gaining the domain. Claim domain. Chelsea Clocks. 2 ticks for their first way through. And their second action is a 3, so 1 tick. 1 tick away. They are nearly there. Now we have got no contempt for the knights. Perhaps surprising considering their list of abilities. But none of their abilities, they've yet to unlock abilities related to gaining contempt. So they're starting off the strong, having recently joined the Congress as the newcomer to the table. So, entanglements gain 1 scrutiny to a domain. Now they have 3 domains: Pentecostal Church, Senior Living on Bellingham Hill, and Old North Church. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3. Roll a d3. 1, d3. That did not go the way I wanted it to. You're showing my ineptitude. Let's roll a d6. 1, 2 is 1. 3, 4 is 2. 5, 6. So 3. We are talking 2. Senior Living on Bellingham Hill increases scrutiny by 1. Something goes on over there that the SI's Curious is barely piqued. A little bit of suspicion. Just a tiny bit. But pretty successful all round, if I do say so. And last, but certainly not least, we move to the criminals. Professional criminals of the group. Who do not gain resources. Instead, gain 1 tick to a long-term project per turn. They've set up an action that will involve that later, but we will move on to their narrative. Something lingers over Boston, like a heavy morning mist drifting in off the sea. The walls themselves drip with precipitated ambition, like a grim omen of things to come and events past. Now set in its grim momentum and impossible to stop. Behind the smiles, the jokes made, and the polite tittering at the dull, repeated anecdotes of the comfortable Camarilla loyalists, the group's engines rev, fueled by pride, ambition, and contempt. 3 things this city has no shortage of. Action 1. The group begins to put their efforts into kind governmental matters, appealing to officials looking for a tax dollar funding to preserve staff and restore the Gibson House. All funds that will certainly be accounted for and would never be misallocated. A long-term project they would like to start to upgrade the domain of Gibson House. Now, a long-term project to upgrade Gibson House, upgrade domains, is 8 ticks. So we will mark this out first, so we know what this is all about. And that is 8 ticks. Their Deer Island treatment water plant will give them 1 tick per turn, and this is now a long-term project, so they get that tick for the turn. And they will roll, and I'm pretty sure it is mental to roll for upgrade. Yes? No, tier. My apologies. It is tier. 3. That is 1 tick, but 2 of the way because of their domain. Their second action. The group is also interested in history and preserving the local architecture in their home of Back Bay. On top of this, the locals have made it known that they would like for everyone to play nice with the ivory tower, be friends, and get a little closer. William would be rude not to oblige, and hopes he can kill 2 birds with 1 stone by continuing his work preserving local history and getting very, very close to his Camarilla colleagues. Performing 1 claim domain action at Trinity Church, which has seen some attention by multiple factions already in this game. So we rolled here for that. Another 3, which is 1 tick. It is 4 tick clock because it is right next to their domain. It is adjacent, one could say. And we are talking Trinity Church. 1 tick. 4th of the way there. Now, entanglements. They have gained no contempt, so they only roll 0 to 3. But now they do gain contempt, perhaps disturbing some people with the whole Trinity Church situation going on at the moment. And that brings us to an end of player factions. And we move on to the NPC factions, starting with First Light. What could the First Light be up to, I wonder? Well, let's find out. Those who have had their eyes on the world-class Centre of Rehabilitation of Spalding Hospital will perhaps have noticed the increased number of unmarked vans and black SUVs parked in the streets that surround it. Who they belong to is pretty evident to any decent-minded kindred, but why the SI are here of all places is anyone's guess. The SI would like to perform a hunt action at the Spalding Rehabilitation Hospital, which has only got 1 scrutiny of 8. So that is a physical roll. I would like to test and see if this works. Fortune roll, I believe. Standard, no dice. Yes, it did, 2. That's only 1 scrutiny increase. Unfortunately for the First Light. But if we look at the hunt action, that means they gain 1 coin. Was that maybe their intention? Was it the coin? Or was it the scrutiny? Or was it both? So many questions. Up next is the Boston Camarilla. What is your government up to, I wonder? Let us find out. Hancock Tower. That's this tower over here. Hancock Tower. A financial black hole and the physical manifestation of Quentin's mad rule. The entire Vanity project was a disaster from the start, but if one was able to turn a disaster into a triumph, well, the narrative would spin itself, wouldn't it? But first, the building has far too many leads tying to the old prince. Tying to the Prince of Old. He's no longer the prince. He is the Prince of Old. These will need to be cleaned up if any success story is to have a chance. Reduce scrutiny at Hancock Tower. So they are going to, yes, there's quite a fair bit of scrutiny. So they are going to have to roll their mental to reduce scrutiny. And that would be fortune roll, submit, standard, 0 dice. And they rolled a 3, which means they reduce it by 1. Only by 1. This historied place of an attempt to form a new ivory tower for the old prince, but when a mad Malkavian who thinks of themselves as an Arthurian tries to get a tower built. It didn't quite go so well. I'm sure you can read the history of the Hancock Tower IRL. It's a bit of an interesting story. And we have the Society of St. Leopold now. Oh, my apologies. I nearly got away without rolling any entanglements for the SI. Let us not let that go unchecked. That is one scrutiny. They're investigating their own domains, it appears. So that's 1 out of 8. And then we are going to move back for the Boston Camarilla and roll entanglements. They gain 1 contempt. I wonder if that's probably from the Primogen. Not so happy with the recent announcement on the anniversary of our Boston Camarilla. Also, we have the XP and coin for them to gain. 2 XP, 1 coin. That is seemingly the thing I forget the most. So I'll need to get a post-it note for myself to remind me in big bold writing. Remember resources. Last but not least, Society of St. Leopold. In the bustling streets of the Garment District in Cambridge, the chants of activism seem to be present in more days than not. They're inconsequential, barely 3 or 5 people at a time, but they have been stubbornly committed for the past few months. I wonder what's going on there. The Society of St. Leopold would like to perform a hunt action on Garment District. And that is a hunt. And it is fortune roll, standard, no bonus dice. And that is a 4. Increasing it by 2. So we're talking 6 contempt out of 8. What entanglements have the Leopold Society inspired? 1 scrutiny to a domain, but they have no domain because they are currently a domainless faction, so they do not gain any scrutiny. Now, that brings us to the end of NPC factions, and that brings us to the boon transfers phase, where I would like to announce and declare to all peoples that the Gemini League have honored a boon offering from the group, that is the group as the offering party, and the Gemini League as the acting party. So that is a boon transferred between the group to the Gemini League for services honored. Now, with the boons transferred, I now need to let you know which domains need to increase in scrutiny. That is Edward the Courthouse gaining 1, Charles River Yacht Club gaining 1, Symphony Hall's also gaining 1, Jeffrey's Yacht Club is gaining 1, Omni Parker House is gaining 1, and Long Island is also gaining 1, and the Boston Fire Department. Yes, these domains here, they are getting a extra scrutiny for unresolved events. And the events that replace them, so that's an occult curiosity event at Carson Beach, a kind politics event at Seaport Hotel, another kind politics event at Pleasure Bay, a decree enforcement event at Pro Courier, a kindred dispute event at Santarpeos. Pronunciation's not going to be my strong suit, unfortunately, as evident. An occult curiosity event at Gibson House, a mortal crime event at the Prudential Center, an occult curiosity event at Hibernian Hall, a masquerade breach at City Hall. The last thing I need to tell you guys is, of course, the bill that will be presented on the floor at the first congressional meeting in which you guys will be able to vote. So, here is the bill that is on the table, on the floor. During the chaos of the last Praxis, what belonged to who was often a matter of how the Mad Prince felt that month. Even 10 years after the change of powers for large sections of Boston, it is still relatively ambiguous as to who controls the territory present. Primogen Hilda MacAndrews of Clan Toreador has proposed a temporary softening of the current barriers to asserting domain, to help the Boston Camarilla move on from a lack of defined borders. This will likely spark heated debate and contempt when claims overlap, but Hilda is insistent that the temporary tensions will be more than worth it to bring a little clarity to our realm. If this bill is passed, until the next congressional meeting, all factions, when performing the claim domain action, may add 1 tick to the targeted claim domain clock. But also, if this is passed, immediately will all player factions gain 3 contempt. So, you'll have to decide where you are going to vote on this bill, if it is a nay, an abstain, or an aye. And that brings us to the end of our very first turn. So, I will see you guys back in the City of Cards Discord. Have a fabulous day.